phase 3 packet, where we're at is 9.1 and the 9.1 homework specifically, but we're also going to look at some IXL. So I'm going to assign you a couple of these homework problems. I'm also going to assign you a couple IXLs that I will go over and explain. That way you'll be able to have a head start as well. So those are our issues. Now, before we start, let's go through a couple things. There's two things that would pertain to you and the class. Number one is the school board did vote. The Board of Education voted last night to end student school days on May 22nd. So that's a week earlier than originally planned. So that means your last day of remote learning, of the online learning, will be next Friday. So basically what that means is your phase 4 is only for next week, okay? So May 22nd will be the end. That's fine with us because that was basically where I had you set up anyway, that we were going to finish up Unit 9 and then review. So just know that. So know that you're almost at the end. So please keep pushing through. You have today, Thursday, Friday, and then 1 week. So only 8 days total of class before you'll be done until August. The second thing is they also are going to push out, they voted and accepted any grades 9 through 11. I had already told you about your Q3 grade, but you are able to increase that grade by working through these packets and these phases. So you're able to increase that grade 5 points, so about half a letter grade. So if, for instance, you had an 85 in the first Q3, but you've been working in these phases, then you will be able to get a 90 as your final grade. If you had a 95 or above and you've been working through the phases, then your grade will be able to go all the way to a 100 in the course. Okay, so that's going to be a 5-point basic curve if you've worked through this remote learning part, and that's going to apply to every class. So that won't just be my class, that will be any other class that you've done. So I would encourage you to work in the other classes as well in order to get your points in that. Okay, so let's go through a couple things today. The first thing that we want to look at specifically is the homework for 9.1. So let me turn. So yesterday we did 9.1, analyzing data. So now it says homework 9.1, analyzing data, and I'm going to share that screen with you. Everybody see my screen now? Okay. So 9.1, analyzing data, it says solve each of the following, show as much work as needed. So in question number 1, they're giving you some numbers and you want to find the range, the mean, the median, the mode of the tomato plant height. Okay. So those things that we did yesterday. Question number 2, you want to find the mean, median, and mode. You want to talk about which one has the higher mean, which one has the higher median. And question number 3, which one of these is the median and the mean the same? So you can put it in your calculator and see what the median and the mean are, and then see which ones are the same. So is the median equal to the mean? Number 4, what's the difference between the mean of women and men? What's the difference of the range of women and men? So you're going to want to work through 2 data sets and get all the information. How much higher is the median in men than the median in women? That's A, B, and C. Okay. So I think 1 through 4 is pretty basic. things that you can get from your calculator and that we talked about yesterday. So the only thing on that first page is the mean, the median, the mode, and the range. You don't have anything on standard deviation at all. And then if we move to the next page, look at 5, 6, and 7. You are just typing these numbers in the calculator. Remember, the mean is X bar. The median is MED in the one variable stats. The mode you look at and see if any numbers repeat. If they do, find the number that repeats the most often. That'll be your mode. And then the range, remember, is the highest number minus the lowest number. And you find what that is. Standard deviation, we talked about on our calculator as well, would be the S of X or whatever on the calculator. And we'll talk about that more. So that's 5, 6, and 7. That's all you're doing is typing those in, getting the mean, median, mode, range, and standard deviation. Now remember, number 8 you can find similar to your notes yesterday. You scored a 65, a 84, a 75, and a 95 on your last 4 math tests. So you want to add those together, 65 plus 84 plus 75 plus 95. Get how many points you gotten. Then you want to get an 85 in the class. So that means you would take a 5th math test. So 500 times 0.85, you want to find what that score would be to get an 85 in the class. And you want to take what you got and subtract and see what score you have to make on the next math test. And then in number 9, you got an 88, a 76, a 62, and an 89. And then the next test counts twice, so that means there'll be 600 total points, and you want to get an 85 in the class. So you want to see how many points you would need for 85 in the class. Subtract how many you have already, and then divide by 2, right? Because it counts twice to see what score you would need to get an 85 in the class. Okay, so these are all very, very, very similar to what we did yesterday. So does anybody have a question on how they would do the 9.1 homework, any of those 9 questions? I think you could get through those in about 15 or 20 minutes. Any question on that, the 9.1 homework? Okay, what we're going to do is the 9.1 homework should be added to your modules. So I'm going to do that right now. You also need to turn in the sheets we did yesterday, which was 9.1 analyzing data. If you see that, it's already there, but you need to do, so if you see my screen, I'm adding 9.1 analyzing data homework, and I've added that to your list of things to turn in for this phase. I'm going to click on it and make sure you can upload that assignment. And you can start doing that as soon as you finish it today. That's online, file upload, and the due date would be today. And we'll save that. Okay. The second thing, so as we go back to modules, the second thing I want you to do today, so that's the first thing, get through those 9 questions and answer those completely. The second thing I'd like for you to do is you want to go to IXL, and you want to go to Algebra 2. So IXL, I'm going to put in the chat, IXL Algebra 2. And we want to go to EE, which is statistics. And we want to go to EE.2, which is variance and standard deviation. Okay, so we're going to click on variance and standard deviation. And here is what some questions are going to ask you. So for instance, here is a question. It says the numbers are, so it gives us our data set. The numbers are 1, 9, 5, 1, and 4. And it says, what is the variance? And it says, now specifically in this one, they're going to call standard deviation sigma, this little sigma sign. And we'll talk about that real quick. And variance is just going to be that squared. So if you go to your calculator, 1, 9, 5, 1, and 4 were the numbers. So we go to stat edit and we clear list 1, and we have 1, 9, 5, 1, and 4. That was our data set. We go to stat calc, one variable stats, and instead of using S on this IXL, they're using sigma. If you'll notice, so SX is the standard deviation. Sigma X is also a way to use standard deviation. You don't need to know the difference between the two right now, but you'll notice that sigma is always just a little bit less than S. And we can talk about that as we move into AP statistics. But for now, you look at sigma X. Sigma is 2.9665. So let's say if we go to 4 decimal places, 2.9665. And we want to square that to get the variance. So the variance would be about 8.8. It says round to 1 decimal place on the variance. So we go to variance and we write 8.8. Okay? And we get that correct. Now, let's say we missed one. So I put in 7. What it's going to do is it's going to show you how they got the standard deviation or how they did the variance by hand. But note that you can do the variance from your calculator. So again, you type the data in stat edit, you go to stat calc, you go to one variable stats, you get sigma, you write as many decimal places as you can, and then you square it. Okay, and that will give you the variance. Now, some of these questions in this set are not asking for variance, they're asking for standard deviation. So make sure you read whether it is asking you for the variance, in which case you'll have to square it, or whether it's just asking you for the standard deviation, or you'll give them what the sigma sign is in your calculator. So variance or standard deviation is what you're going to be looking for. So that is IXL Algebra 2 EE.2. Okay, so that is IXL. So I'm going to put that in here. That's IXL Algebra 2 EE.2. And I'm going to publish that as well. And as I publish that, I'm going to allow you to upload a picture of that as your response and set today's date as the due date for that as well. So the 2 things to work on today where it says 9.1 homework, the 2 things to work on today are those 2 pages where all you need to do on those 2 pages are finding the mean, median, mode, range, and standard deviation. And all that comes from typing the data in stat edit and doing stat calc, one variable stats. So if you could do that, then you should be able to complete these 9.1 analyzing data homework sheets. And then for the IXL, the only thing you need to be able to do again there is type the data into stat edit, look at the standard deviation. If it's asking you for the standard deviation, then give that. And remember, it says to the nearest tenth, so that's 1 decimal place. If it's asking you for the variance, then make sure you take that number, don't round it yet, and square it. And then you'll have your variance, and then you want to round that to 1 decimal place, and you'll have that. So those are the 2 things to do. I would think together, those will probably take you about 30 minutes if you worked on that diligently going through this time, and you could be done before the end of our 10 o'clock time frame and have those submitted. So if you missed the beginning of the meeting, it is on our YouTube playlist. So this was live. So I have, as we start to do these, I'll put these live on YouTube, and they will then go to our YouTube playlist. So if you need to go back and check the beginning of the meeting, you should be able to go to that link I sent out yesterday, and in the next hour or so, it will update with today's meeting. So hopefully I explained that pretty well. That takes you through section 1 of statistics. We're going to come back tomorrow. I just want you to do some work today. Today's like a work day. Let's get as much as we can, make sure we understand how to use our calculator to get these summary statistics. And then tomorrow we'll come back and we'll go to 9.2, which is more vocabulary heavy, not as much math in there, but we're talking about sampling. So in 9.2, section 2 of statistics, it's more vocabulary. So we're looking at different sampling methods and what these sampling methods will do when we try to take a survey or an observational study. If we try to study something and we use a certain type of sample, how is that going to affect our study? And that's what we'll be talking about tomorrow in 9.2. So be sure to tune in, try to be on time at 9 o'clock, and that way you don't miss the beginning of our lesson or anything like that. And that way you'll be able to get all the information. But again, to recap today's, you want to be able to do the mean, median, mode, range, all those different things with one variable stats. And then you want to be able to go through and answer the questions on the homework, submit those for the analyzing data homework, and then answer the questions on IXL. And be very careful in IXL, they call the standard deviation sigma, which is the one right below S of X. Okay, so with that, I appreciate your time. It was really short, about 15, 20 minutes today. If you'll spend the rest of the time that we would have for this class period working on that homework page and working through the IXL. If you have any questions on those two, please send me a message on Canvas or a message on Remind, and I'll get right back to you. But if not, then have a